Hi, I'm Leila.
And I'm Beth,
And we are Both And.
a podcast dedicated to giving a voice to the multiracial experience in America by discussing relevant topics in a safe space.
Beth, it is fall. It is a new season. It's been a hell of a month. How are
Yes,
you,
it
my
has.
friend?
I'm here.
Amen to that.
Honestly, I think I'm here, I'm present, I'm trying to be mindful because I feel drained.
Hmm.
Um, there's been a lot going on in the socio-political sphere in America,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
you know, given what I do for a living as
mm-hmm.
a mental health professional, I listen a lot and I'm a container for a lot of clients. And so I've just been listening and taking in a lot. And so that's pretty draining. So I'm
Yeah, for
trying to be
sure.
very mindful in how I conserve and recharge and use my energy.
Smart. That's really smart.
How are you
Mhm.
doing?
I think I'm doing as well as a multiracial person can be in the fall season. Now, is that fall, autumn, or fall, the downfall of American society? I don't know. It's definitely autumn, but we'll see what's happening with everything else. Um, my time has really been occupied making space for myself, and I think people who are like-minded when it comes to where we are with just like democracy, being part of like a 1 million rising gathering with Indivisible. And really the goal of that is to create community and bring people together. So I've been doing that. I also have joined the Working Families Party, which is a multiracial third party in America that's been around since the 80s. And
Cool.
it is for the working class. It's for working families. So um, a chapter, a wolf pack is what they're called. Our groups just got started in Virginia, and
Love it.
I'm involved with that. So that's a lot of work, especially coming up to campaign season, the election
Sure.
season. So yeah, just finding space. I'm trying to create space for people, and I'm trying to make new like groups for people to join, and just
Hmm.
really finding this sense of trying to increase belonging for as many people who want to feel like they belong. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of work, but it's worthwhile, I'll say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is, living it out when we talk about being a bridge builder, when we talk about connecting and
Hmm.
meeting people where they're at and things like that. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying to create spaces of belonging for people, especially our multiracial community, which I feel like has a lot of crossover with some of the more political things that I do.
Hmm.
Um, And I think that's because whether it's like a political moment or like just these big cultural moments that happen in society, often they touch the multiracial community. And
Hmm.
I saw that happen a lot in September of 2025 with the Charlie Kirk shooting. Um, there was a comment that I saw, and this person said, "I'm biracial." Actually, let me pull up the comment. I have it right here. She said, "I'm biracial and only know the white side of my family. They are all MAGA and they all mourn Charlie Kirk, even my mom. The pain is indescribable and they act like I'm the problem."
Mm.
And that for me, just when I read that, it really resonated. Um, it felt like an echo of my past because I've been there in specific time points in my life
Yeah.
where I just it almost, if I can take it all the way back to like 2012
Yeah.
when Trayvon Martin was assassinated, that like woke me up.
Hmm.
I was grappling with my identity in a new way because of the way the news covered that story and how people in my community responded to it.
Right.
And then when Tamir Rice happened in 2014, like if Trayvon Martin woke me up, Tamir Rice got me out of bed.
Hmm.
Because there was just such a response from some people in my life that didn't reconcile with how I perceived the world around me and how they perceive the world around me. And I think what we have learned is there's often these like watershed moments in identity development that sadly include instances of monoracism.
Mhm.
And in a way, it pulls us closer to our multiracial identity because there's no ignoring that side of you that is feeling that pain.
I think just, like, stopping and hearing that person's comment and, like, listening to it, it's
Mm,
like I think sometimes, like, hearing them just be like and they say and they think I'm the problem.
mm,
Like, they feel so other, and they're like, "This is my family. These are all the people I know," and what stood out to me was even my mom,
mm,
like, that person that they're supposed to view as, like, safety and nurturing and connection, so, like, that just really hit me that I was, like, sitting with as you were talking and processing because I remember Trayvon Martin. I remember Tamir Rice. I was with my husband at the time. We were together, we weren't married because we were in college.
mm,
Um, and, like, hearing him and being a safe space for him to process all of those shootings of Black men in America. And he went to a predominantly white institution, and so trying to, like and recognizing that what's in the abstract in the political sphere then can become real in day-to-day living of, well, if that's how you view the world, then how do you view me?
mhm,
How are you gonna treat me when you look at me?
mhm,
And so, we'll talk about this a lot more, in the next episode, but then to bring it into the multiracial community,
mhm.
um, it hits different because that biracial person in that comment was, "Wait a minute, I'm both."
Yeah.
I share genetics with you, but you're pushing me away and viewing me as other, which is an example of what researchers are now calling monoracism,
Hmm,
which
mhm,
researchers define as discrimination that targets individuals of more than one race because they do not fit into the discrete monoracial categories posited by society's monoracial paradigm.
hmm,
And America does have an underlying monoracial paradigm that
mhm,
often generates these instances of monoracism towards the multiracial community.
mhm.
Whether it's like, for example, way back when the one drop rule.
Yep,
You
yep.
can't be more than one thing. You have to be one thing. If you have one drop of it, you're all of it.
Mhm,
And now it's kind of morphed over time, but you know, we most commonly see it as othering, right?
mhm.
Classifying multiracial identities as other, which really just implies that they're like abnormal. And
Yeah.
sometimes, especially being Japanese and white, having that like exotic
Hmm,
label of like, oh, you look exotic, which
mhm.
is you're just trying to approach me and say, like, you confuse me, which then leads to the famous question, what are
What are
you?
you?
Or it's like, "Oh, you're Japanese," and then it's like, "Don't fetishize me. I don't care what manga you're into right now, like, I'm a whole person, so
Mhm.
don't other me right now," kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And so that's I think sometimes these, like, big moments in society and culture and politics, um, affect everybody, but also
Mhm.
for the multiracial community, right? Like there's so much racial divisiveness that it'll
Yeah.
affect our community differently because what are you comprised of,
Mhm.
right? For you, Leela, being black and white, that's being oppressor and oppressed
Mhm.
mixed together.
Mhm.
Um, and then for Latinx communities, and now in this all of the deportations and the ICE raids, right? Like, how
Mhm.
is that going to interact in someone's identity development, especially if throw in white passing and colorism complications there?
Mhm.
Historically, in the Asian communities, right, there's been a lot of um, military presence in Asian communities, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, to name a few. And so then you get all of these mixed people, but then the Asian community's like, "Yeah, but that's because she was a military bride." Like, we
Yeah.
don't want that militarization in our culture, and there's a lot of, like, shunning, and it can be really complicated in
Mhm.
how we view ourselves, and that affects a person's psyche. that
Yeah.
affects a person's self-esteem and their mood. There's often a lot of depression and anxiety associated
Mhm.
in multiracial individuals, unfortunately, because of a lot of this acute monoracism.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's I think first we just want to like validate for any multiracial people who are listening that this is this is almost like part of it is just part of being multiracial. Like we've been there. We know others in our community have been there. So much so that we're doing studies on it. So it is like a common experience. And I think the beauty that comes out of that is the journey to
Mhm.
find your belonging with your people, but also to have that self acceptance of identity and to find ways to like honor both sides or all of your sides because some you might be multi you're maybe not just biracial multiracial to honor all the sides of your self. And I think once you start doing that, it makes it easier to then encounter the groups that you are a part of or you have been raised in to bring them along to show like this is me as a complete person. Like
Mhm.
this is all of who I am, not just the ideologies that you gave me like growing up, not just the culture that I grew up in or have been a part of. Like there is more to that.
Mhm.
So for any multiracial person, like kind of feeling that struggle or that tension, especially now, especially with what for some reason it is like the political moments, the big cultural moments, like just bring out it takes the quiet thoughts that people have. It forecast them out loud because everybody's talking about whatever has happened, and that's when you really get to see it what people believe, and
Mhm.
that can feel so hurtful, and it is it's worth doing the work because these moments will keep coming.
Yeah,
They are not rare in America, so it's worth
exactly.
doing the work to kind of love yourself, know yourself, and find your people so that when this stuff happens, you're not rocked by it as much as we can be.
Like, there's still hope though. Like, first,
Mhm.
the first step is always acknowledging, like, what's going on and how you're
Mhm.
feeling, but then, we wanna validate the struggle, but we don't wanna be stuck or stay in the struggle.
Absolutely.
So, researchers do give some hope. Um,
Mhm.
some researchers have identified that multiracial pride can be a
Mhm.
buffer against these negative psychological effects that discrimination has on the multiracial community. And they
Mhm.
define multiracial pride as positive feelings associated with being a multiracial person.
Hey, I got it.
Eh,
Check, check.
Same. And so if it's enough to coin a term and create a definition, then that means it's pervasive enough. So,
Mhm.
okay, like, if it's pride and positive feelings with being multiracial, then Leila, how do we foster multiracial pride? To, like,
Mhm.
kind of specifically address the comment that we read earlier, how do
Mhm.
we foster multiracial pride if we don't have access to both sides of our heritage?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think I'm just gonna pull from my own experiences of, um first, I feel like there might be one to two people in your lives that are safe people, and they might be the people to talk to and start going to like trying to figure out what's going on in yourself or just like I remember my cousin Carrie, cousin by choice, not by blood. She was somebody. She was kind of like a lifeline when Trayvon Martin was happening. We were like on a trip or something, and we were watching it on the news together, and just like able to say, "Isn't this crazy? Like, I can't believe this. What's going on?" In a way that I
Mhm,
hadn't been able to do with, like, my mom. No offense to my
mhm,
mom, love her to death. Um, but even if you don't have that person yet, because I think you will one day have that person in that group of people, there are so many books and documentaries and podcasts like this one that I think
and
people can tap into that kind of create that internal safe space as you take in that media. Like when you're reading a book, it's me in
yeah,
this book. I'm in my inner world. And that I think is really helpful. So, um, there's some understanding and some knowledge like gaining that have to happen in that. So that's where I feel like books like Black AF History by Michael Harriot, and Indigenous Peoples History of the United States by Roxanne Dubar Ortiz, an Afro Indigenous History of the United States by Kyle T. Mays. You see the thread here? We're
Mhm.
getting history from a different lens, from a different perspective,
Right.
and I think that there's something for me about knowing like the my people weren't just brought here by force and suffered and died. Like they survived and they were resilient and they built this country and contributed in more ways than I know that
Mhm.
start to foster that pride.
Yeah.
Um, so I think stuff like that is really good.
Mhm.
Stuff that's multiracial focused. If you don't know W. Kamau Bell,
Yes.
amazing,
Love
amazing
him.
person. He is in an interracial relationship. He has
Mhm.
multiracial children. I
Mhm.
recently watched 1000% Me, which is a documentary exploring the mixed race experience. Um, and even just watching that, it's so refreshing to see a representation of myself on screen and be like, I know
Mhm.
exactly what that feels like, or I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear somebody say that and know it's a common experience. So
Mhm.
find that media and start your self education would be, I think, one of the first steps.
Yeah.
But Beth, what do you have any books or recommendations in that way?
I think for me, the first book that comes to mind is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah.
Oh yes,
That was
good
the
one.
first, like, stand-up special I saw. I was like, "Wait a minute, he's talking about being biracial? Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
same." Not same experience, but, like, no one's ever talked about this in a Netflix
Hmm.
stand-up special before, that to my in my life before. And so,
Hmm.
like, having that story and that self-biography is great. There's also Making Multiracials, State, Family, and Market in Redrawing of the Color Line by Kimberly McLean DaCosta. There's also The
Hmm.
Half of It by Emma Slade Edmondson and Nicole Ochran, and they also shout out, they also have a podcast,
Hey.
called Mixed Up, so you can listen to that too. Um,
Hmm.
but I think, like, if I were to think about my younger self and what I wish I had known was
Hmm.
that I'm not as alone in my experience,
Yeah.
because I didn't have the internet growing up. I didn't have, um, I didn't know that there was now I follow mixed Asian media, like one of my
Hmm.
favorite follows on Instagram, because there's so many Hapa people that you
Mhm.
can just see the like tapestry of being Hapa. Um,
Mhm.
and that just feels so validating and inspiring for me. And so I think about it for my kids, and it's a lot of books, it's a lot of music,
Mhm.
TV shows, making sure that the representation in there shows mixed families, shows brown skin, and then the books that we read. Sometimes we'll read like books by Japanese authors, sometimes we'll read books by Black authors, sometimes we'll read books by white authors, and we'll mix it up so that they can kind of like get um, we call it the ingredients, like, "What are the ingredients that
Mm.
make up you?" And it's like,
Yeah,
"Here's the ingredient of being white, of being Black, of being Japanese." And then
that's
you,
good.
like, mix that all together, and it makes the unique, beautiful you. And so we
Mhm.
try to, like, keep those threads going in our house, but that's for my children, and then for myself as an adult, it's a lot of books, um, movies, podcasts, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there. Just to shout out a few more, there's Being Biracial, by Maria Birch Marunga and Kate Robinson. There's the Multiracial Verse podcast. There's Militantly Mixed, The Mixed Experience by Heidi Duros, and NPR's done a lot of great like mini
Mm.
series
Yes.
on being mixed. Like one of my favorite podcast episodes is NPR's of just like the "What are you?" question,
Mhm.
um, because I think it's just so well researched and represented and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah. And there's some other like online communities too, like the Instagram profiles you already named, but also like the Reddit. There's like a mixed race Reddit board, a
Nice.
Reddit group, and I feel like that you go in there and it's just like, "Oh, okay, here's my people." Like, here's my people all around the world talking about our similar, like, struggles, and that's just
Mhm.
so, nice to see, but it's also a great place to, I feel like, go sometimes, and I'll see somebody talking about something I struggled with earlier in
Mhm.
life, and I can then comment and be an encourager, a source of support, a source of knowledge. So
Yeah.
kind of even tying back into the community in that way, I think is really good. But there's also a point where we have to get offline.
Right.
We have to go in person.
Yes.
And even I think that we have the benefit of being in a pretty diverse regional community, but so I hope this isn't like a too out of touch suggestion, but finding festivals, heritage festivals, or regional festivals that celebrate a part of your identity
Mhm.
is, I think, so amazing because it connects you in a deeper way.
Mhm.
Um, just going and taking up space, to
Yeah.
be there to say, "This is me too." Like, I
Yeah.
also have, a stake in this because I am, whatever. I'm thinking of the Filipino festival. There's a huge Filipino festival in our region, and, it's really just, like, a bunch of Filipino businesses, like,
Mhm.
meeting up together at a spot. They have their, food, they have their music, they have
Mhm.
ton of ube, like all of the things. So, if you
Yeah.
can find something like that locally, um,
Mhm.
it's worth the effort of attending, even if you go by yourself.
It is. I mean, so I've shared on this podcast before how my grandparents and all of their generation and the generations above were interned during World War II. And when
Mhm.
they relocated on the East Coast, my dad grew up outside of Philadelphia. Go Birds. And, he would always talk about how, like, they stopped speaking Japanese at home, they only had so many heirlooms and things because they lost so much during internment, but
Mhm.
every year, I think he would say in the summer, in Philadelphia, they would have, like, a Japanese festival, and they would go to
Mhm.
the Buddhist temple in Philadelphia, and they would see taiko jumpers, and they would eat all these foods, and they would see, like, dances and all these things, and, like, him as a kid, like, and his family kind of like reconnecting to a community that they were like severed from and dispersed from was like
Mhm.
so powerful and impactful. And
Yeah.
then I mentioned how my great uncle helped found the Seabrook Educational and Cultural Center. And so every
Mhm.
summer for July 4th, they would host a picnic. And so my family,
Oh,
when
wow.
we were all like really little, like us and all of our cousins would go to this big um, July 4th picnic as formerly interned Japanese descendants and their survivors and descendants to celebrate,
Mhm.
like, what American independence meant, being American
Yeah.
citizens and kind of, like, reclaiming that identity, but then having, like, hot dogs and, like, sushi on the tables at the like, was pretty
Mhm.
great. Um,
Mhm.
and so, like, all of that, just, like, fond memories of, like, part of my, like, cultural identity development and my family's is,
Mhm.
it's so worth it, and, like, sometimes even if you go by yourself, just you've it feels daunting to go to something like that alone, but then, like, you're not alone when you're there.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
you get to be, like, enveloped in and, like, partake and
Mhm.
be included.
And this won't happen to everybody, but I do wanna share a story that's not mine, just of my fake cousin Carrie, who is part of the Lakota tribe and
Mm.
took that step to go to a New York gathering and immediately found, like, 3 actual cousins. And it was like, "What?" Like, didn't know they were gonna be there, how fun. And so you
Aw,
never know. You never know who's there,
that makes
real
me so
cousin or
happy for
play.
Carrie.
Oh, it's beautiful, and and now is more connected to that community as well, and I think
Yeah.
usually at those type of festivals, there are connector points, there are bridges to other things that people can get
Mhm.
involved in, so you never know, just go open arms, open heart, and see what happens,
Yeah.
but if you're looking for maybe something a little bit bigger, there's also conferences.
Yeah.
Beth, what conferences did you find?
Well, since we're already towards the end of the year, there's only a couple conferences left, but specifically for the multiracial community, there's a conference on building anti-racist multicultural communities that's virtual, being held October 17th to 19th, and we can
Mhm.
pop that link on socials for you guys. And then if you're in St. Louis, Missouri, there's Just Narratives for Multiracial Solidarity, November 13th to 15th later this year. You can register
Nice.
for that conference, and we can post these links on socials if you guys are interested. But
Mhm.
we get invites to conferences throughout the year, having a podcast and whatnot, and so like it's out there. Like you don't have to think like, oh, it would be nice if like no, it most times it exists. It may be small, and if it doesn't exist, then why don't you go on Reddit and ask other people like, hey, don't you think this should exist? And then it can become a thing.
Mhm. Yes. And also, I just want to shout out Loving Day too. I was thinking of like conferences and big like multiracial specific things.
Mhm.
Loving Day in June 12th, I do believe, is a great day to like just even before that day plug into the multiracial community because Loving
Mhm.
Day is going to share stories on Instagram
Yeah.
and they're going to talk about the history.
Mhm.
So just another one to tap into there.
Yeah.
And probably usually from these type of things, this is where you meet new people, and maybe even meet some elders of the community,
Mhm.
people who it's actually one of the most fascinating things I saw about the W. Kamau Bell documentary was he interviewed some older multiracial people and them talking
Wow.
about like this was like what it meant to be mixed then and how
Mm.
dangerous it was. And
Yeah.
it gives you like a point of gratitude almost of like we're both in interracial relationships and it
Mhm.
has never been like I am doing something against the law or I'm at risk of going to jail for this.
Mhm.
Um, but even the younger generation, they're dealing with things that are like different than what we like. Some of this stuff is the same, but it's like just it's changed a little bit, like with more
Yeah.
acceptance. So you could find an elder or a peer, or you might be that person who's like sharing your story to the younger generation of like, this is what I went through.
Right.
And this is how I grew from it and learned. So, um, you can definitely do that. Cultural immersion is always available if
Mhm.
accessible. I know that might be a little bit hard if you're like
Sure.
Japanese and you're like, I'm gonna go to Japan. Though Beth is gonna go one day.
Yes, I am. Auntie will babysit.
Yes, I will. I'll watch those babies for 2 whole weeks so you get the full experience.
You heard it here, folks.
It's on record. Oh, but what have you seen other ways that people kind of do cultural immersion or like find ways to connect to their communities like that?
Yeah, I mean, my brother has taken up learning Japanese. Um,
Mm.
because of internment, my family stopped speaking Japanese, but my
Mhm.
brother has decided like that's something that he wanted to do. And so he's been very faithful with it. Like he has a subscription, he has workbooks. He really keeps up with it and he's planning a trip to go when one finances, but also two, like he feels confident enough to like
Mhm.
go and like have more of an immersive experience,
Nice.
which I just think is so cool.
Yeah. That the language learning part, I really believe can unlock a lot of doors. I've seen that kind of in my husband's life, just as he's Hispanic, and
Uh-huh.
the stories he has told me about, like learning Spanish from his mom and in school, and I mean, it's great when we travel because I'm
Yeah.
like, please talk to him. But I think it also is kind of for people who have different languages, it is if you're white passing and you hit them with that language, people very quickly are like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
and it kind of gives you an in to the community faster, especially if you say like, oh, my mom is this or my family's from here, and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
we didn't recognize because you're white passing. So
Right.
language is powerful. It is
Yeah.
worth the investment of learning. Luckily for me, I'm black and white, and we all spoke English, so I should learn Spanish, but it's
One
hard.
thing at a time.
One
Baby
thing at a
steps.
time. Yes. So yeah, I hope listeners that So that we have kind of an outline here, a little bit of a path to walk,
Yeah.
but just know that you do belong, and your identity is more than what you've inherited. It can be what you reclaim and what you build.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm very proud of myself for the identity that I've built, because if I would
Yeah.
have been passive in just being who society said I should be, or just
Mhm.
leaning on the things I was taught in school, I would be a completely different person. First
Right.
off, this hair would not be natural.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It would be perms and straighteners or relaxers. That's what they're called. Relaxers all day.
No.
Um, just a question for the listeners. Like, if this is the space you're in, how do you affirm your full self even when others don't?
Mhm.
You're worth that. So maybe
Yeah.
take some time to think about it. How do you do that?
Yeah. I know for me, it's a lot of, like, growing up. I grew up, um, outside of DC, very diverse, huge Asian population, but not big Japanese,
Hmm.
and so it was constantly like, "What are you? Oh, you're Japanese? Oh, but your dad's the Japanese one? Oh, because all the,
Mm.
Asian kids monoracial Asian kids at school would have, like, Asian lunches packed, and they'd look at my, like, sandwich and be like, "Who packed your lunch?" It's like, "Oh, you're white, mom? Oh, that's why." And it's like, "But do you
Mm,
so you don't speak at home, do you?" And it was really
mm.
like, that was monoracism,
Yeah.
now that we have a name for it, but I've kind of learned now when we go through that song and dance of like, "Oh, do you speak Japanese? What generation are you? Have you been to Japan?" I'm very like, secure in my Japanese American identity that
Uh-huh.
I don't need them to affirm that for me. It's my
Yes.
self-esteem, it's not others' esteem, and so I have those, like, mental and emotional boundaries in place that sometimes I don't even answer the questions, um, and if I do, then I take the time to educate, and in a
Uh-huh.
way that says, like, "I don't need your opinion, I just need you to listen."
Uh-huh. That's good. That's powerful. Oh, well, listeners, for those that are on their way to that space, I wanted to end with an affirmation. Beth, is that all right?
Yes,
Okay.
always.
I pulled this from Black Liturgies on Instagram, one of the groups I love to follow.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read this and do it with me. So
Yeah.
inhale, I stay near to my voice. Exhale, I am not alone.
Mm.
Stay near to your voice and remember
Yeah,
that you are not alone. We are
no.
here.
Yeah, so we hope these resources have been helpful for you so you can feel validated in whatever your feelings are, but not stuck or hopeless in that space,
Uh-huh.
and that you can hopefully find something to or someone to connect to and feel
Hmm.
supported in.
Yes. Um, yeah, one last thing before we go. It's crazy times, folks. We're heading into the holiday season. So we were
Mhm.
pumping out some episodes here and there. We're gonna move to once a month format. Hopefully for the first Friday of every month is when we're gonna
Mhm.
drop our new episodes, unless we change our minds. Because this is a hobby and we can do what we want. So
Yep.
we hope you'll stick with us, engage with us on our socials. We are both and if you ever have a comment or want to have a deeper discussion, you can find us at we are both and at gmail.com. But until then, y'all stay safe, stay happy. We'll see you next time.